Tales from my D&D campaign.
Previously.
If he's going down, he must be heading for the core. I don't know, but if there aren't any more bodies around him, we'll have to lock him down with the dimensional anchor so we can finish him.
The entity has taken control of the strategic withdrawal unit. Activating the portal.
He's activating the portal?
God damn it.
It'll split the world in two? Unfortunately, it took so long to finally get down here that we've missed the volcanic maxima by a couple days. There should still be enough energy to irradiate most of the continent, at least the northern half.
Around the shoulder area, a pair of hemispheres emerge and power up. Twin shield generators? The artillery beam hits Rainbow Dash 98 damage. As you're shredding it, you start to see black energy coming from some of the wounds.
We don't have to kill it. We just have to kill him.
He's trying to hang on, but he's too far gone.
Now you die a coward.
Take you with me.
I can put up a pretty decent wall.
I just want to look at that crossbow.
Oh, yeah. For what purpose do you require access to that weaponry?
At some point, we're going to have to fight the Vampire Kings.
We're going to have to fight the Vampire Kings.
Access granted. On the wall, there are 5 bolts displayed prominently in the middle, with a plaque underneath written in Ytarran. Okay, let me get out my translation book. Eat at Joe's. No, hold on. Just as you're starting to translate it, the Raj's holograms appear. What the hell? I'm sorry to interrupt you. According to our fate matrix, you are about to uncover an item. Already did that. An item which I would pay 10,000 gold for. For sentimental reasons. Are these blessed bolts?
So which one of these, shoved up your ass, would kill you?
Dude!
We're not terribly concerned with that.
But Kinokoro, the brother with the sword, is glancing down at the plaque below them. Well, give us a minute. With the image of the Raj peering over his shoulder, unsure whether Kinokoro has already read it, Draven translates the plaque quickly. Our enemy's might cannot be matched, but where there is deep computational and divinatorial analysis, there will always be hope. That probably rhymes in Ytarran. Really? Because before they showed up, I was going to joke about taking a plaque. Very well. If you are interested in selling that, I will arrange for 10,000 gold, or equivalent value in trade items, to arrive at your house at an appropriate time. I can totally see how they would want that. Is it magical? It is not magical. You could swear the other Raj's expressions are about as close to grinning, maybe smirking, as you've ever seen.
If you don't feel like trading it, I'm sure it will save Lord Kinokoro a tiny modicum of embarrassment. You can decide at your leisure after you've had time to put out some fires, figuratively speaking.
You don't need to explain every little thing to them.
Well, their language is so imprecise.
Their language also has concepts like condescension, overbearing.
Whatever.
Pardon us. We will leave you be. And they disappear.
What if they want something? What if there's something to the plaque?
There is something to it. It's worth 10,000 gold.
I kinda don't want to sell them the plaque. So do we want to sell it to them?
Yes, f*** it. I like these guys. I know it's possible they've been lying to us and messing with us all this time, but they seem to be trying to find tips that help both us and them, and so far it's worked out. But the point, which all this horribly distracted from, is the 5 crossbow bolts. Each of them has some writing on it, but in Draconic, not Ancient Ytarran. That's weird. Do there happen to be, 5 vampire lords? Tobin did mention there being 5 vampire kings. So you check out these +4 seeking undead bane mithril bolts.
Don't miss.
The first says Hastings the South King. The second, Vladimir of the Mountains.
Oh, particular to each king.
Third says Swain of Old House. Fourth says Lockhart the Cold. And the fifth says Alicia the Crone. That is really badass. I've got to start doing that shit in the future. The weird thing, though, is you know there are 5 vampire kings. Tobin doesn't know everything about them, but he knew and told you their names. And one of them is wrong. You've never heard of a Vladimir. And they're missing Cornello, the one responsible for the thousands of people taken in Good Place. The other names all match Tobin's list. The Ytarran stuff was super long ago. Maybe Vlad got replaced?
Could be.
Everyone's paranoid about undead. We're probably going to the Shadowfell soon.
For me, that would be like a dream come true. I really want to go.
Each bolt has a unique enchantment, which Draven hypothesizes to be tied to an individual target, but he can't determine what they would actually do without significant research. In fact, it's not even certain that he can decipher the complex weave of this magic without a lot of solid information on the targets themselves. But you're pretty sure if you hit the right Vampire King with one of these, it'll do something.
So who's going to use the crossbow? How do we split it 4 ways?
Draven had assumed Angel would get the artifact, which can resize itself, because it would let her sneak attack undead. But that ability was actually part of the weapon crystal, which is easily transferable. She relies mainly on her deadly spike chain, and her crossbow, though not crazy powerful, is enchanted to deal force damage, making it an insanely reliable backup weapon. So Angel gets the Greater True Death Crystal, and Draven takes the Photon Accelerator, disenchanting his old crossbow and converting his built-in wand rack to an attachment for the powerful new weapon. I will note, the fact that it holds 5 bolts, and there are 5 Seeking Death bolts, is mostly thematic. There should be no circumstance where one individual would fight each of the 5 Vampire Kings over any span of time, because you'd be f***ed. What order do you put them in? It doesn't matter. The free action loads whichever bolt you want from the compartment. Thought activate. Oh, I'm f***ing Hawkeye. Having now been accepted by Polaron Controller, though perhaps still with some reservations, they have really gained control over the facility. Questioning the intelligent construct, they learn that, other than the obvious, protecting and maintaining the facility and all assets and personnel therein, its primary directives are research and protecting the mainland from extraplanar dangers, which appear to include the misuse of its own portal's astral energy. The controller gives them a rundown of its remaining units and defenses which, other than the secondary armory, have taken quite a beating. Draven, assisted by Mora and Angel, sets to work repairing the power source which had become damaged. Somehow. Little One and Liz broke down the wall of stone Draven had used to block the death laser guarding the upper entrance. That generator had been shut off without real damage, so the workers got it running again by themselves, ready to defend that entrance.
Can you fix the subway?
I do not have access to an excavation unit. We've seen 2 of them at the maintenance station, but they're not in good shape. Without an excavation unit, reopening the lower entrance would be an extremely slow process, and may not be good strategy, given the defenses were destroyed by the lava breach.
No more lower death laser.
So while the arcane members of the party repair junk and Draven spends his spare time tinkering with the tectonic translator salvaged from Delta's excavation unit, Black's player finds a spell he'd like to use in the spell compendium.
Hey, I was wondering if we could slightly modify this Zealot Pact.
Zealot Pact is a level 6 divine spell which takes 10 minutes to cast and costs 500 XP. It remains dormant indefinitely, like a contingency, but it triggers and gives you a massive buff the next time you hit a foe whose alignment is the exact opposite of your deity's alignment. For example, Sirius is lawful good, so for Black, it would trigger off chaotic evil foes.
I was wondering if, instead of chaotic evil creatures, we could change it to trigger off Kuatoa. Because in this world, in this setting, Kuatoa are pretty much the opposite of the religion of protection. Also, I'm worried monitors may be lawful.
Because monks are lawful.
It's a good bet some monitors are. It makes sense RP-wise if that's how you want it, and that's a much narrower group than a whole alignment. Plus, they have a racial connection to a chaotic evil god. If that's what you want, we can try that out.
Cool. It's pretty awesome. Once triggered, I'll get double damage against KT for 1 round per level.
Wow.
Nice.
In character, Black is used to solemnly protecting Draven while he tinkers with bizarre magitech, but Little One quickly ran out of stuff to do, and found himself wandering around Polaron. He was checking out the portal area of the core again, where the hardened lava around the portal still marked the area in which they had weathered Epsilon's self-destruct. Then he thought he saw some movement in his peripheral vision. Looking towards the source, the empty back half of the lava-walled core chamber behind the elevator column, he saw nothing.
Controller, do you have any units down here?
There are currently no units in that vicinity.
Can you get Angel down here?
Angel sneaks down, invisible, and Little One whispers his concerns, so she casts Silence and ninjas her way past the wide central column.
Spot check. 30?
You don't see anything. But remembering that one moment from earlier, when in the midst of chasing Epsilon around the atrium, she had spotted some inconsistent movement near the lava, Angel takes her time now, and searches the molten waterfall near the spot Little One had indicated. And,
After a moment, she does see something. Tiny, stealthy, and apparently unconcerned by the savage heat of the molten curtain. It likely wouldn't be moving, but, of course, it can't see you standing there. It's an orange-red salamander. A salamander? Not a D&D salamander, a much more literal salamander. A small lizard with lava-colored camouflage. Just a regular lizard? Well, knowledge nature, in your experience, most lizards are combustible, so that part doesn't add up. Well, I keep talking to the controller while she's over there, so as not to draw suspicion. This portal only links to other portals, so right now it can't go anywhere, right? There are currently no valid destinations for this portal. So there's no way something can come in through this portal? Theoretically, that is correct. But there was one piece of anomalous data generated by the portal approximately 11 months ago, an externally triggered spike in energy. When we were in Ytarran? Yes. That's when. Of course. I'll watch this thing as I switch to my fire-resistant suit. You're just putting on a suit in the middle of the room? You can't see me. Actually, he can. Gah! Once equipped with her new Ytarran Aberration Handler's gear, which has 12 fire resistance, Angel grapples the lizard, easily winning the check thanks to her larger size.
That's something Angel doesn't hear every day.
Eep! Angel has silence on. Okay, you think it was trying to make a noise. You also think it would be burning you without the suit. I'll take it.
Okay, but you take 3 fire damage.
Really?
It's probably 1d6 per round or something. He hands it back to Angel, and it squirms vigorously for 3 rounds. Then the lizard goes limp, possibly trying to play dead, but nobody is fooled as the party convenes. Mora's best guess is that it's some kind of fire spirit.
Ah. You mean like the seed? Maybe it could help protect us too.
I don't think they all work that way.
Why were you spying on me? So you understand me.
The lizard nods slowly.
If we let you go, are you going to run away?
It shakes its head slowly no, but it has a terrible poker face. It is scared shitless.
Okay, how about this then? I let you go. You don't run away. I won't crush you. Sound like a deal?
It visibly shrinks away. It may have literally shrunk an inch, but it slowly nods yes. Can you read a spirit's mind? You should read his mind.
I cast Detect Thoughts.
The spell mostly does surface thoughts, and right now, that's mostly wishing it hadn't stuck its head out, and really wanting to get away. Takes a little work to get past that.
Does anybody control you?
Its thoughts are alien enough that you're having to interpret emotions and generalities, but it doesn't seem like it.
Why was he watching?
Curiosity. For a couple weeks, there's been a whole lot of activity, and just recently a whole lot of weird energy. Then, that big dark thing arrived. That seemed bad. What do you think of this? The salamander peers up curiously at the seed. There's a lot of curiosity, and a sense of, you'd almost call it, protectiveness? Is there any danger to this thing? It may have some fire-based attacks, but Angel clearly wasn't burned by touching it, so it was concerned that attacking, just to get away, would do nothing except make you all mad.
Okay, we'll let you go. We're not gonna hurt you. But if you see any other big dark thing, let us know. Or at least the Overseer.
According to Angel's spell, that makes sense to the salamander. You did get rid of the last one. I like this a lot better than all those spirits in the Feywild. Satisfied that it's not a danger, and may even be helpful down the road, they release the lizard spirit and wrap up the last of the critical repairs. With both repair bays powered, the controller estimates it can have about 30% of the downed golems back up within 2 weeks. The ones with parts more fully destroyed are going to take a lot more time. It can convert spare materials into parts, but that kind of fabrication, nearly from scratch, is a lot more difficult for Polaron's automatons. Can it build more like that escape pod? That thing was crafted over centuries. It was the pet project, basically the hobby, of a senior engineer who thought the controllers should have an escape pod for whatever reason. Then kind of just never stopped improving it. Went a wee bit overboard.
We should ask about a creation matrix. We haven't asked about that yet? Are we idiots?
Well, out of character, we had a lot to cover.
Yo, is there a creation matrix here?
Or do you know where one is? Of the 3 known creation matrices, one was stolen by a dragon when the Ytarran Empire was weak.
A dragon has a creation matrix? Oh my god.
The second was ordered destroyed to prevent a similar fate from befalling it. The third was buried with the last Prime Minister, Isolas Turi, in the capital.
Unfortunately, like GE7, Polaron Controller didn't know which capital. The capital in use at the end of Ytarran, which lay somewhere near the present-day dwarven capital of Tarpajan, or the original Ytarran capital on what used to be a peninsula, but, after the failure of their dike system, is now the large island landmass controlled by the Elud.
We need to get GE7 here.
Can GE7 make more armor like mine?
Similar to the strategic withdrawal unit, that armor was handcrafted over many centuries, though he can probably make it somewhat faster now that he's done it before. Last time you saw him, he had already begun working on a new suit for himself.
We need to bring back Daggerface too. Dwarf Daggerface. Yeah!
Definitely. Through several sending spells, they established that Dwarf Daggerface is alive and well in Bankton, and GE7 has done a lot of traveling, but is currently in a dwarven settlement near Elven lands. The old Warforged priest had been worried about signs of Dark Ancient activities, but he'd seen no sign of them for months now, and he seemed honestly surprised that he had apparently gotten by without being possessed by one of them, as he'd suggested in the package he had left them in that safe deposit box. Yes, the package. That we definitely picked up. We should pick that up. There's still one Dark Ancient out there that they know of, so Draven doesn't reveal anything about Polaron through this magical communication, even though GE7's answers seem pretty convincing. Delta faked out many orcs for a period of years, if not decades, so it's hard to rule out possession. Knowing where their friends are now, the party arranges to teleport to Bankton, pick up Dwarf Daggerface and the safe deposit box, which GE7 had left for Draven at a bank while the party were in Vistria. From there, they'll ride to Corso's Chasm to meet up with their Warforged friend, who is coming from the other direction. The tough part was figuring out who would go. Teleport can bring along one passenger per 3 caster levels, and Draven can teleport a fair number of people at this point, but not the whole party, including Mora and Rainbow Dash, plus Liz. As a huge character, Rainbow Dash alone counts as 4 regular-sized passengers, plus they're hoping to teleport back with 2 more NPCs. I could stay here, keep working on items and researching. I've got lots to do, but I have the big appraise skill.
Well, if he goes, I have to go.
Mora has okay appraise, so if he stays, she should go. It's nowhere near as good as Draven's, though.
So Mora, Angel, and Little One could go. Try not to destroy Bankton.
But wait, didn't that old message from GE7 say he gave the bank instructions only to give the thing to Draven?
Oh yeah, he said only Draven, not even himself.
So I have to go.
Mora can stay. She can cast teleport now if we need to reinforce Mute.
It'd be nice to have Little One to talk to Dwarf Daggerface. Black is the one who might not have as much reason to be there.
So we leave Angel and Mora behind, and Black, so that between them all they can fight off pretty much anything. I do want to search that library more thoroughly. There must be some more books about the Vampire Kings or something. Are we going to look for Zahir? We know where he was supposed to be.
Definitely. I think that's the next thing on our priority list, but we need to sell stuff, get crafting supplies, and hopefully secure our other friends. I do think we want GE7 here, if possible.
It'd be really hard for me to stay if Draven goes.
Me and Angel then? You sure you want to leave me alone for 2 months here? I can just imagine you leave me here, you come back and there's like 1 construct left. I got bored.
In the end, Angel and Mora stay to hold the fort, along with Liz, whose presence might cause trouble in Civilization, and Rainbow Dash, whose presence might be awesome in Civilization, but there was no realistic way to do what they need to do and bring the huge mount without using a second pair of Eldritch Eyes. With only 1 player character here, it felt risky, but those were 2 leadership followers, a pretty decent combat NPC, plus Polaron itself, which, despite having so many units out of commission, could still easily fend off an army of ordinary soldiers. Draven set up the Linked Eyes ritual, allowing him to bring along 1 Eldritch Eye, usable only for the return trip, and he teleported himself, Black, and Little One to a spot a little ways outside of Bankton, the capital of Larrick. They quickly make their way from the halfling suburbs, shallow underground neighborhoods covered in gardens, to the wide streets and dense housing of the most populous city in the southern half of the continent.
Daggerface! You're okay! I got your message when you disappeared off to wherever, but I've been worried. And I felt a little lost for a while.
their disfigured dwarf companion hadn't known what to do after they unexpectedly teleported to Vistria sooner than planned, without him. But a while after, he'd come across a mugging, and using some of the skills he'd learned in his time with them, he kicked the thug's ass and rescued a person. An acquaintance of that person got into some trouble and offered to hire Daggerface to help, and he ended up protecting them from an attack, and pretty soon, despite looking like a zombie ate his face, he had become something of a neighborhood hero. So as they all walked toward the banking district near the city center, a few people recoiled and quickly looked away from the mangled dwarf. But every once in a while, someone would recognize him and give a cheerful or thankful shout-out.
Hey, it's Daggerface!
Hi, Daggerface!
You the man!
Ah, you're too kind.
Before leaving for the Peace Bond, Draven has stored a spare Eldritch Eye in one of the prestigious banks here, since you can't bring Eldritch Eyes with you when you teleport without losing your magic. The exception being a single extra eye linked via the round-trip ritual. GE7 had chosen that same bank to store this package, and it becomes apparent why. A senior clerk comes out and uses a psionic power to confirm Draven's identity, which they're able to do because he was already an account holder. That's convenient.
And not creepy at all.
What's in the box? They take you into the back, hand you a key, and escort you into the vault, but you're only allowed to bring one person with you. And once you're in, they close the vault, a vault manager staying inside along with one guard of their own. Oh good, I was starting to worry we'd be sealed in here. They show him the fairly large safe deposit box, then back off to the vault door for privacy. Within the lockbox is a plain wooden crate, which they open to find a worker from Ytarran, much smaller than the Polaron ones they'd gotten used to. Really, just a torso in this case, and damaged at that. The controller? Indeed. What? In Ytarran, after we fought Epsilon in the controller room, outside the chamber we found a worker which was making odd noises, actually breaking itself in order to make the sounds... Oh, yeah. Why didn't we get this before teleporting to Vistria? I know, right? Is the controller still in there? Well, GE7 went to the trouble to bring it back out of there long after the incident, and leave it in a safe deposit box for you. Can we reinstall it?
Or take it back to Polaron, put them together?
Or maybe with Polaron's help we can make a new controller, or fix it, put this in, bring it back to Ytarran or something? Didn't Ytarran collapse? You guys had to bring down the cube at the core to contain the portal, but while that only partially contained the burst of astral energy, physically, structurally, it kept the place pretty much intact. Underneath the controller fragment was also a note from GE7. It hinted at another facility far north, and that this thing may contain more information about that and about the Dark Ancients. Stuff that would have been intriguing or revelatory at the time, but the part which seemed all too relevant now was that GE7 had stored this with instructions to release the contents only to Draven Rowe, and not even to himself, because as he had been researching the after effects of the Ytarran incident, and looking for elves who might tell him about the events of the 1,000 years he had been underground, he had caught hints, evidence that Dark Ancients were around, and he was very concerned that he could be taken over, his information and his connection to the party used against them. And that's what weighed on their minds as they set out eastward from Bankton to meet GE7 himself at the chasm. With the vast underground fortress of Polaron mostly to herself, Angel spends some time exploring around the abandoned laboratories of the upper levels, and now that they aren't worried about golems lurking in every corner, she's able to properly examine the lava processing facility they had previously skipped. There she found a pair of enchanted leather suits, much simpler, less armored than her Ytarran abomination handler gear. Not really player character quality armor at her level, but which provide fire resistance 24, which is the maximum continuous energy resistance you can normally find on a magic item. One of her first nights after they left, she wakes up with a feeling of uneasiness and finds her weird new armored suit missing.
What?
Wait. Yes, it's been absorbed by the vest. The weird self-repairing vest she'd acquired from Mortival had once again consumed a, mostly, non-metallic item of magical clothing.
That's so messed up.
And useful. The vest, itself a shirt slot plus 2 resistance item, seemed able to absorb all manner of magical clothing, and, once absorbed, the wearer could shuffle its inventory swiftly at will. Any item which is active occupies the same slot it normally does. So if she turned on the travel cloak previously added to it, that would use up her cloak slot, preventing another magic cloak from being used. But she could switch it to another magic cloak with a thought. Similarly, she can turn the Abomination Handler's gear on, and it would take up her armor slot, as it previously did. But she could also swap it out for any other armor that had been absorbed by the vest. The only apparent drawbacks were that the items could no longer be separated to trade or give away, and that the outfit must always maintain its half-brown, half-checkered color scheme, though the user could will those colors to rearrange themselves. As the rest of the party crossed the border into Tark, passing the Ugly Mug Inn on the way to Corso's Chasm, Angel tried searching the magma-flooded library again, though without much luck. Looking for things to do, she checked around the portal again, catching another glimpse of the salamander, who is still pretty stealthy around lava, but does not seem to be hiding as deliberately as it used to. But you spot something. A faint marking scratched into the floor near the ramp. You're lucky it didn't get covered by the lava that hardened after the self-destruct. The marking is shallow, but once she found it, it was clearly an intentional symbol. Unfortunately, she couldn't identify it. It was not magical, and Angel and Mora were pretty sure it wasn't magic-related, nor was it a symbol of any race or language they knew, or any of the codes or thieves' cants Angel was familiar with. I'm sure this is some group's internal code, but I don't know it. Mora even failed her bardic knowledge roll, so they've got nothing. Might have to wait till they come back. You have another uncomfortable night. What did I have left that the vest could eat? It's not the vest. Make a fortitude save.
What?
Because I've been away from the thing. 13?
Oh, because of... Oh, shit.
Astral plague? Correct. The cumulative buildup, and then days out of the spirit seed's protection, and some of the effects have finally caught up with you. Angel takes a point of con damage. Okay. What? Shit! I didn't think it would come in so soon! Angel is very sanguine about it, while everyone else is freaking out around the table. Stat damage from a disease is not permanent, but it cannot be healed until the disease has been removed. And the one thing they really know about the Astral Plague is that even the Ytarrans, who built all this fantastical, incredible Magitech stuff, were unable to cure themselves of it before it was too late. And losing 1 point of Constitution reduced Angel's max hit points by like a dozen, indefinitely. We've got to get back there with the seed before the saving throw comes up again. It was a really bad roll. The chance of her failing 2 in a row seems low. How often does the disease tick? That you don't know. You've only been gone, 4 days? But you don't know how far it had advanced during all that time it's been restrained. The others reach Corso's Chasm and slide right into their old lab space, which Don DiCorso had reserved for them back when they were working out of here. And they finally got to sit down with GE7 and discuss things. And try to sort out whether he was possessed by Beta, or maybe by another Dark Ancient they hadn't heard of.
Good to see you all again. Yeah, I know. I only knew you for, a few months, but it feels like you've been gone for years.
So what all have you been up to? GE7 has been many places in Tark and has spent weeks in Talaris, the Elven lands, trying to learn the history of the 1,000 years he'd missed from the clinically immortal fairfolk. It's notoriously difficult to get elves to talk about that kind of thing, but he was able to convince a few very old elves that he was just as old, and that gave him a bit of an in with them.
Better than the Dwarven histories. Their perspective is long enough, but they focus so much on trade and on the accomplishments of their clans that you have to digest volumes to extract the important parts.
One of the main things he'd done, though, and of particular interest to them, was to return to Ytarran and to study the site and the effects of the portal failure on the dwarves who lived nearby, particularly in Don Horatio's Estado.
We all did what we could, and your little friend's sacrifice reduced the scope of the disaster tremendously, but the effects on the dwarves who lived nearby were terrible.
After roughly a year, nearly every dwarf who had been in the environs, except Dwarf Daggerface, was dead, and those still alive are very sick and probably won't last long. What about the, archaeologist? Garreton Greypike? He left town on some other quest not too long after you guys moved on, but reportedly he was showing the first signs of illness, so... unknown. Don DiCorso's steward, who you rescued from Ytarran, just recently died. Don Horatio, ruler of the lands where Ytarran was found, has also died, his estado inherited by a cousin who had been visiting another Don's lands during the incident. Pretty much every dwarf in the area has been slowly wiped out.
But again, my research shows no evidence of non-instantaneous effects of the pulse. Dwarves who moved into the area afterward have shown no ill effects, and even the Ytarran complex itself appears relatively safe, though I wouldn't risk exposing non-Warforged to the lowest level, touching the core.
Then why is Daggerface okay?
Don't look at me.
We try not to. He's been away from the seed for months. Is he showing any signs of illness? He looks fine to you. He looks... but he seems healthy otherwise.
Furious.
What about the Kuatoa? Yeah, what happened to those guards?
I assumed they're dead or dying too. I see no reason the astral energy would affect them differently, but I have less information because all the Illud posted in the area have since been transferred away, including the envoy.
Apparently the Illud Council only assigns personnel to surface stations for a limited period of time, usually about 2 years. Hard to say if the KT consider it like being posted to Siberia, which sounds like the situation with the Illud ambassador they once met, or how much is just to prevent them from going native. When they found out about the hundreds of deaths, the Council of Dwarven Mages sent a minor expedition, with GE7 advising and Don Horatio's new KT liaison, Envoy Lacoon, providing some soldiers and a bunch of laborers. Slaves. They didn't venture very deep, but the Illud blocked off the tunnel which Kua Commander's Diluvians had used to get in. They collapsed the tunnel starting from near the ocean end, so it's thoroughly blocked off now. Well, that's good.
Except the slave part.
Except the slave part. While they were selling junk and crafting magic items and hanging out with their old friends, trying to figure out how to know whether or not GE7 had actually been possessed by a Dark Ancient that could access all his memories... Detecting anomalous energy readings from the tram passage. Some event is occurring simultaneously at each of the sequential force walls. Uh-oh. Can you give me a visual? It doesn't have that quality of sensors down the tunnel. So, do you have more to message us? Yeah, we can teleport there in like a minute.
Might be a little premature.
Mora can't actually cast sending. What? Mora was high enough level to cast their unlimited distance communication spell of choice, but as a bard, she doesn't automatically know all of her potential spell list, like a cleric does, but rather has to learn spells like a wizard, and Mora didn't actually know that specific spell.
So she has no way to let us know of an attack?
We really should have coordinated this part. I thought she had sending. She does have teleport. Angel sprints into action, streaking up towards the surface entrance, since the lower entrance connecting to the tunnel is still blocked by crusted over magma. As you run, the controller starts listing off all units that are operational and available to defend the facility. 2 conducting golems guarding the upper entrance. 3 standard Detronium golems, plus 4 autonomous Detronium golems in the secondary armory. No standard shield units are currently operational, but 2 autonomous stealth shield units are available in the secondary armory. 2 Magnus. The controller was unwilling to spare the single remaining fire suppression unit, because it has an imperative to keep an FSS on hand for fire suppression. But a slicing golem and 2 artillery units are available. Send those up while I scout the tunnel. Angel Spider climbs right up the walls of the destroyed temple to the surface, her vest morphing into her traveler's cloak to protect against the cold as she crossed the Arctic ice sheets to the sideline of the tram tunnel the party had used before. As Angel approaches the first of those force gates, she can see the damage to the wall near the portal, as though something were smashing away from within the stone wall. Then you notice flickering lights far down the tunnel. As they move closer, they resolve themselves into multiple sources, like some kind of men made of fire. Oh no. Possibly familiar men made of fire.
Things are just getting warmed up. Next time on Tales from My D&D Campaign.
I still really want to upgrade my spirit into a brilliant weapon, though it's going to be pretty expensive. It's a +3 mod, so you'll need an item of power. A brilliant weapon passes through any non-living matter, so it ignores all armor. Just imagine when I full attack with Searing Blade. It's practically touch attacks all the time. And I can extend the spear to large size and stab somebody through the wall.
Of course, it would have been useless like the last 10 adventures. Elementals, golems, more golems, robot ghosts. It also doesn't work on undead.
It'd be cool to make, like, monk's wraps, so you could put your hand right through a door and open the lock from the other side. Though that's a really expensive set of lockpicks.
But if your hand goes through all inanimate matter, you can't interact with the lock. And if you go through up to your arm, it must stop at a certain point. That's gotta be an uncomfortable feeling.
I should get my entire armor made out of brilliant so I could pass through walls.
Brilliant armor. Then all weapons pass through it? Best armor ever.